Hi, everyone. Kate Sargent here with Career Hacks and Snacks and another wonderful episode. I've got Rose Ann Mullet with me today. She is a content developer and writer who's made some really incredible career pivots, which we're about to talk about. But Roseanne, welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Kate. I'm so excited to be here. As Kate said, I'm Rose Ann Mullet, and yes, mullet like a fish.
Oh, like the hairstyle.
Yes, I am all business, but also a lot of party.
Front party in the back.
Yes, yes. I was like, I can't quite go into party in the back. That just feels quite an affair.
That I don't know our person, so like we're never allowed to party in the back. But like, just kidding. Okay. Anyway, sorry. More about you.
So I am a writer at heart, and I worked in marketing as a copywriter and sort of technical writer for about 3 years before I took a detour into education, where I have developed content for picky critics, those teenagers. I'm an award-winning educator, been recognized in multiple districts and set records for achievement. But now I'm looking to get back to what I love and my own passion, which is writing. So I am working on a career transition back into technical writing and content development.
Well, so what is the difference between a technical writer and another kind of writer?
Some technical writers are really more like customer education, which is what I did before. I was kind of this like amalgamation of like marketing and technical writing. I worked at a software as a service company. So a lot of what I did was customer education about how, like, say, our cloud offerings partnered with our security offerings and kind of how those integrated, and kind of educating customers about how to optimize performance. But you can also get into process writing and like user manuals. Some people are like, oh, it's like the boring writing. And I'm like, no, it's the really super writing.
All writing is fun for me. I'm like, give me some. I could feel like I could write from like the moment I wake up to the. Do you feel that way? Where like
I do. Yeah.
give you a piece of paper, maybe not paper, computer, because we're not in the 1900s. Okay, so tell me about your background then. Like, let's talk through the career pivots. Let's talk through where did you start? How did you get here? What was the through line for all of this? 'Cause it sounds like you wanted to be a writer from a young age, at least. You were writing from a young age. Walk me through the progression of what you wound up changing.
I'm just laughing. You saying you wanted to be a writer from a young age. I mean, at 3 years old, like my mom talks about this. At 3 years old, I was coming up to her with scribbles and saying, "Read my book, mommy." Like, there's pictures of me literally writing before I actually like could literally write. So I'm just like, writing is part of who I am. So in college, absolutely, I was still thinking, oh, I'm going to be an author. That was my goal for a long time. And I'd kind of adjusted and played with different content types. I was the leader in our broadcast news show when I was in high school. I did some cool things with that. My content is part of what got us grant funding. I shamelessly still have that on my LinkedIn because I'm like, I did cool things. But yes, it was a student leader role, which is really great. And it's something that I did again in college. I was a university writing center tutor. So I was like building this profile for I'm a writer starting really young. But then, there's realities like, oh, bills, which you don't think about at 15 or even really 19. So that idea of I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller became I'm going to be in marketing as my day job because publishing will think that's great. And so the truth is the first couple of years I was out of college, I was really an author who was like a technical writer and marketing associate, like as my day job, side gig, right? So then it was a certain reality kicked in about, okay, I'm engaged. I have this wonderful person who is my person, and he wants to go into college athletics. That means I'm going to move a lot. In the first year and a half I was married, we moved 4 times. So I had to find something that would allow me to have a job. So I was like, well, I'll go be a teacher. I loved working at the writing center as a tutor. I'm a great writer, so I can help other people be great writers. And I have great pass rates for various writing, like international assessments. Most important to me is I have lots of students who have been like, I became a better writer because of you. Right. And like, that's
Awesome.
I love super rewarding. It's super rewarding. And the reality is I'm not leaving teaching because it isn't super rewarding. Right. It's the reality is, I think you actually wrote something about this recently on LinkedIn, like build the life you love. Right. And find something that really like is what you want. It's just time. It's time to get back to my passion in my heart, which is actually writing, right? Not just questions about that and facilitating discussion or like helping other students write or writing like an example essay, because I have in the entirety of my teaching career, I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of teachers do this. We create our own content,
Right.
right? And I've actually never worked at a school where like I didn't create my own content where I was given materials. I know that there are schools that have that, but I've built all of my own units from scratch. But at the end of the day, like as much as I love and value what I've done, and events to get back for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to get back to the writing. So
I
I'm
mean,
ready.
I love that because, like, for me, and I also think people think that they need to do everything right away, that they need to, like, just jump into something new. And once you make that decision, I feel like for a long time, there was a lot of messaging about that, where it was like, follow your dreams, follow your bliss, eat, pray, love, right? Like, whatever. The majority of us are slow burn people, slow build people. And like you were doing this in the back, I mean, like this is your passion, right? It's the thing that you do, love doing. You were building it, but then it's like, some of us don't just jump into the unknown too, and decide, okay, now I'm going to be a writer tomorrow. And financially, you can't do that always. And I'd love to talk a little bit about teaching, kind of in general. I come from a family of educators. Like literally my entire family is educators except me and my sister, I guess. But, my cousins are in New York. My uncle, my dad was a special ed teacher. My stepdad was a special ed teacher. Like we literally have a huge number of educators. My uncle was a high school principal. They all just sort of stayed in that path, right? Which is real simple as a teacher. It's a very clear path, right? You don't have There's no real tons of different directions you can go, and it's stable and it's great. It's a wonderful job. But if you want to get yourself out of education, like, secondary, elementary, even higher education, it's very, very difficult to make that transition. And I've worked with a lot of people that have really struggled to kind of get out of that. How do you get out of there, and how do you find your way into a new career?
Well, I think it's really interesting that you brought up that like slow burn piece because I think for a lot of teachers, leaving education itself, like time to even really make that decision. And I'm guilty of that. And the first time I really was like, I think maybe I should leave education was about 6 months after I'd finished my master's degree in education. And it was like, oh, I really think that like moving into college prep is where I want to go. I've taught in public and private. I'm currently at a college prep school, but it was also the first year that I taught. It was after my son was born, right? The first full year in the classroom after my son was born. And so then there was this aspect of like parenting also kind of clarifies some things because that was the first time I went, gee, like this is the path for the foreseeable future. I don't know, going back to like life and growth, right? So I've been a top performer at my schools for a long time. So somewhere in there, you just go, what's the next step? That's what's driving for me, my career pivot is I don't want to look up and tell my son like, yeah, I got to a point and I just kind of stayed there because that was what was easy. So anyway, my point is that in transitioning, I think that there is this moment where you have to decide like, okay, I'm really ready, right? So I'm just looking for that next step in terms of growth. And it's like, it's time to get back to what matters to me and kind of my heart, which is writing.
So tell me about some of the conversations that you've had in this space, and like are you feeling like people understand the teaching skill set and how that leads to kind of the type of work that you're looking to do? Because I mean, you have a unique combination of marketing and teaching and writing, which is that leaves you uniquely qualified for a lot of different things, but I think all of those are really individual skill sets. So tell me more about that.
I'll be very candid and honest.
I love it. Tell me that.
When I first was like, I'm going to leave teaching, I was like, well, I've been in teaching, this is my 17th year in the classroom. Well, obviously I should go into instructional design because that's where teachers go.
That's a logical progression, ed tech.
Right. And I'm going to be honest too. I was sitting there like, and the reality is marketing copywriters and technical writers, right? Like their future is that they will be replaced by AI.
Yeah, I mean, like on some level, there's going to be a big chunk of that that's replaced for sure. Mm-hmm.
So what I realized as I was going after this instructional design stuff, one, like teachers transitioning into instructional design, there's a lot of them out there. So it's been a good experience in the sense that like I went into this idea, I'm going to be an instructional designer because that's a logical step. My experience clearly translates. It's an easy translation, right? And then I got into it. I joined ATD, which has been awesome. I've met some wonderful people. There's a local chapter here. I'm actually volunteering to do some of their communication. So that's starting here in 2025. So I'm super excited to get back into some of that content creation. So that's the Association of Talent Development. right? So it's a professional organization that's focused on instructional design and L&D and those kinds of roles that really help.
Yeah.
Yes, optimize performance within the workplace. But as I got into that, one of the things I was fortunate enough to be able to do is I did HED's Articulate Storyline training, and the instructor talked about how he's also a technical writer and kind of the overlap. I've looked at technical writing before. The first time I thought about getting out of education, I was a finalist for a technical writing role. Maybe I should go back and do some more research. So I did. And then I found out that there was a federal court case that actually ruled that content developed by AI cannot be trademarked or copyrighted. I can recognize that, like, the nitty gritty of how that plays out. What I walked away from was, it's like, well, if I was a corporation, I was a company, I would not want my user manual to be something that I can't maintain the intellectual property. So I was like, okay, there is still a future here for technical writers and copywriters, because the reality is that is intellectual property that companies are going to want to maintain. So then I realized that it's like AI is going to be something that we are using to curate and edit. So I went back to my resume and was like highlighting and thinking
Wait,
through, like,
it's like an actual, like you're like actual highlighting with like a true highlighter.
I just needed the visual, and I needed, there's actual studies that talk about actually handwriting. I thought, like, in order to really dig into my resume to maximize and optimize output, I needed to engage with it on paper. Like, so I got out my red pen, which, my students will tell you, like, oh,
That's like the nerdiest thing right there. And I love it so much. Like, so you got your red pen and your highlighter, and you're like,
yep.
I always talk to people about get your tools together and like get armed for your resume
Mhm.
moment. So I'm gonna have to add in like bring your red pen and your highlighter and print your resume out. Like,
Yeah.
whatever, but like I like print your resume because it is a real, there's a tangible, like, physical feel to being able to do that too. Yeah, I should recommend that more to people.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like it forces you to slow down. Now, there's kind of a give and take to that, because one of the people that I've talked to recently, she commented, we live in she's like, I feel weird saying this to the writer, but we live in a society that skims. The feedback that she gave me as we were talking about my resume was, it's like, okay, for your career summary, you have it as like a short little paragraph, which is, punchy and whatever, like, but could you, because I'm in that space with my resume where I'm also trying to communicate that it's like, well, there is this
We
company
have to do the storytelling, right?
yes,
Do the storytelling that other people, the explaining that other people
yes.
don't necessarily have to do. But I'm on the same page with your friend from a skimming and keep it short, because I was that recruiter that in 3 seconds looked at your resume and went yes or no.
And I think it's so important. I think it can be really hard to think about, how do I put what I've done, or how do I frame what I have already done in this role, in role A, teaching, that communicates that I can do what is needed in role B, and I'm going to be able to effectively solve these problems for this company. Okay, I could talk about how during COVID, right, we all switched to online teaching, but it sounds a lot better and more relevant to say that I migrated print instructional materials to a digital content and learning management system in order to effectively engage and communicate with stakeholders.
I mean, you're speaking my language so much, but I would also add to that and facilitated a change management process, right?
Oh, I should write that down.
Hey, take that. It's all yours. Go for it. But I mean, I do a lot of this reframing. And I think, like, it's similar. I'm going to make a comparison to retail, because retail was a transition that I made. And I think, like, if somebody had handed me a manual that said, here's the things that corporate people understand that they don't understand about what you do in retail, but like, here's the bridge, which to me, to your point of strength finders, and to my point of competencies, is like, there is a language that needs to shift in between the two, particularly in LinkedIn, particularly in resumes. But I do it with this nonprofit that I work for as well, where I'll be like, show it to me. Pull up your LinkedIn profile. We'll do it with like a bunch of people there. And I'll be like, okay, well, here's what that means on the corporate side. Here's the skill set. Because like, you need to understand the skill set. You need to understand your competencies. You need to understand the framing of the language in order to make that move. And I actually think it's less that we don't respect these skill sets, because I've been saying that my whole life. Nobody respects the skill set. And now I'm starting to really think that it's not so much about the, like, if somebody explained it correctly, there is respect for that skill set. Not that people are just discounting you. It's the matter of like the coded language is not translating properly. The corporate jargon is not translating properly. And I think this is where, to your point of networking and understanding people, where it's super important to be talking to the people that are in those spaces that you get to, stalking the resumes of the people who already have those jobs that like easily found their way into those jobs through a linear career path. Like stealing, right? Steal the language, understand the language, but I think everything can be reframed is my theory. Like everything you've done can be reframed to tell the story in the way that makes sense to tell it forward to wherever you want to go.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I mean, at the end of the day, right, I think you're giving yourself permission to revise your life manuscript, your career manuscript.
Yeah.
Right.
Giving yourself permission is the right term for that. Yes.
Yes. And I also think that that's a really important part of career pivoting too, is because so often I think, we think about our careers like, oh, I have this dream, right? And the reality is that like the dream isn't like the dream that we all thought it would be, right? Like at the end of the day, a job is a job. You're going to have good days and bad days. And I think that if you're just like trying to make a career pivot because like I'm really unhappy where I am right now, that's not the reason to make a career pivot, right? And frankly, it's too hard. Like,
why it is. I mean, it's definitely not one of those follow your bliss, like just jump into the unknown kind of moments, because you will just be miserable for at least 6 to 8 months, probably trying to do that. But
yeah, and
I'm with you.
And I've seen, it's funny. I've seen a lot of people on LinkedIn lately who've been like, this is not the market to make a career pivot. This is the time to stick where you are. And I'm like, maybe, but
I mean, but here we are. Ideally, like if you're in a circumstance where you can do both, I'm always a fan of that. Like, if you've got a stable job that doesn't make you mentally unstable and miserable, physically unstable, like, and you just literally can't stand it anymore, like, get out of that job no matter what. Like, I don't care. Like, go find something else. Like, it's going to kill you to be in that role. But if you have something that's just like blah, meh, and you're like, I could do this job, but like I don't feel great about it, but I could do it, then do it for another 4 months, because it's taking people a minimum of, or what, 5 months, 21 weeks to find another job too. Yeah. If you don't have the financial stability, I was lucky enough when I came out on the market to have a minute. Like I had a minute to kind of think about what I wanted to do, because I was forced into the market time. So if you have time, great, take the time. But if you don't, you don't have to like throw it all away to go make a career pivot right now, but you can make babies into that space too. So we have been talking for a while. This is amazing. I feel like we need like 20 more minutes for this conversation. I want to get into our next segment. This is great. So the career pivot messaging here though is about do it, follow your passion, doesn't have to be fast, make all the right moves in terms of talking to the right people, but ultimately the market right now isn't necessarily quick, friendly to this type of thing. So like you gotta be willing to like hustle for it a little bit. You gotta be willing to give a little bit of weighting towards it, and you have to really refine your messaging to find your way into these spaces from like a competency perspective, translating your skills perspective, and really take some time with the materials that you're putting together so that people can understand what you do, because we don't want to be wildly applying with no transition. Did I miss anything there? Is that
I think that, get out the red pen and the highlighter and I think embrace the change, right? Change is never easy. So I think that like, if you say embrace the change, embrace the journey, I recognize there's going to be bumps along the way, both like hits to your ego and like, and in terms of like, oh, I really wanted it. Oh, that didn't pan out for me. Right.
Your talk on humble pie though was a really good one, because like I learned that, right? I was really good at my job that I had before, and I was good at the job I had before that, but that's because I learned how to do all of those things along the way in 20 years of getting there. And then when I came out on my own and did my own business, I was like, oh my God, like I had no idea there were this many pieces of doing business. If you're going into a new industry, it's not just that they don't understand your experience. You got to know that there's probably a lot of things you don't understand too about that job that you're going to have to learn along the way too. So one of the things that I believe is that people have an emotional attachment to snacks. They really help fuel your journey. But like, let's talk a little bit about what snacks did you bring? I want to know. I'm dying to know. I'm so curious.
So because content is excellent. And I figured that we could relish what we talked about. Oh my guys.
Thought that was the worst pun ever. Was it a pun even? I don't even know what that was. Play on words?
It was intended to be a little punny, but maybe.
Wait, is that a deviled egg?
It was, yeah. Okay, and Jackie's recipe right here.
Tell me what's in it. Tell me what's in it. I gotta know.
So this is actually, it's not totally Aunt Jackie's recipe because we forgot to get the onions before we have to, yeah. But it has dill relish, hence relishing change, relishing our discussion.
But are we talking dill relish means that it's like the non-sweet kind?
Not sweet relish. Absolutely not sweet relish. That's
all. Putting sweet relish in anything other than a hot dog that has like mustard on it and or maybe tartar sauce, unacceptable in my mind.
Fair. No, it's just regular old dill relish with melted butter, right? And butter. Yes, melted butter. That's part. Get the texture right. Yeah.
Wait, is there mayonnaise in there? There's mayonnaise too.
Yes.
Mayonnaise and butter.
It's all the guilty pleasure. You can't go.
That sounds good to me because my biggest complaint about things in life are that they taste too much like mayonnaise.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's like
half butter, half mayonnaise, or it's like all mayonnaise, all butter. It's like very creamy.
I don't know exactly how to quantify it because here's how I learned to make it, right? I sat at my Aunt Jackie's kitchen counter and watched intently. And it's just about you just gauge the texture.
Oh, I love that.
That's what, yes. And, part of the reason I wanted to bring these two is because it's I think that in career pivoting, you also have to find those moments where you can make your heart happy. Like there are going to be those times where as you're eating humble pie, you have to step away and maybe you eat something like deviled eggs. Your Aunt Jackie, makes amazing.
Always.
Guys.
In general.
Yeah, because why not? Why not? Originally I was going to bring
that was keto, right? That would be like a keto product too. So it wouldn't even be a guilty pleasure.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not aware.
I will eat some brain items, and I'm just trying to justify.
My justification is they're really good. I don't make them all the time, but I will say originally I was going to bring chips and salsa, and I also have a family recipe for salsa. Chips and salsa, favorite food. It's its own food group. Shameless.
Mom, because it's like a food, because when your kids are the worst and you just can't make dinner tonight, chips and salsa is always there for you. I have to tell you, I've now had several of these where people were like, well, I ate them before I got here. And so I had to change to something else. But deviled eggs are good. I feel like everyone it's crazy the tweak of an ingredient and how much it really changes a deviled egg because it is sort of a neutral flavor and everyone makes them so very differently that you kind of have to have caution when you go to try one at a picnic, right? Or a party or where it's because you're like, what's your recipe, right?
Yeah.
My recipe has bacon and chives in it. It's quite delicious, right? But then I'm like, how much mayonnaise is in this? Does it have pickle relish that's the sweet kind? Because I'm out in that. Yeah. One little tweak with these things can make a difference.
So this one I tweaked because we give a shout out here to Sandcastle Seasoning. If you're not familiar,
I'm not. I need to know all about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so they're a local Texas company and I stumbled across them at a Christmas market and kind of fell in love. But they have this infused mustard spice. And so I have Sandcastle Seasoning's barrel rolls spice in these eggs.
Barrel roll? Barrel?
It's called, that's what the name of it is. It's barrel roll. Mm-hmm. But it's really, it's a mustard, a dry mustard with other spices mixed in. And their specialty is sort of infused salts and stuff. So I did that with regular dried mustard, and it is just.
These have been so much fun because people have these local things that I've never heard of. Somebody sent me the delicacy that they're going to do for snacks so that I could eat it with them. And I was like, oh my God, that's so crazy. All of these really interesting, unique places. Learned about a candy bar from Australia, all of these. So everyone has their own little kind of special thing. But hold on, we were talking about chips and salsa. I have to go back to this for a second. But you come from the land of queso. So are you a chips and salsa or chips and queso person? And do you, God forbid, put corn in your salsa? Because I can't handle that.
No.
It's not a Texas.
Unless it's corn, a corn, roasted corn pico. I've done that as a side where you do roasted corn. I call it corn
dish, though. That's a
it's salsa. Yes, it's a side. It's not. It doesn't go on chips, in my humble opinion. It's a side dish. It goes with tacos,
right? Or next to whatever you're eating at the barbecue. Right?
Yeah.
Its own sort of entity. Tell me about any sort of childhood traumas or foods that you just literally cannot swallow or put in your mouth without gagging?
So my like really kind of weird one that like people are always like, what do you mean? I really hate peanuts and peanut butter. Yes. Yeah. I guess that.
Everyone loves peanut butter on this show. Everybody
Yeah.
brings peanuts or peanut related items or talks about how much salty and sweet they get excited about. And you're
Yeah.
peanut.
I'm anti peanuts and peanut butter. And what's funny is my son loves peanut butter. And my husband loves peanut butter. And while I was pregnant, so we're talking about food aversions, while I was pregnant, really any sort of meat, really any sort of protein was an extreme aversion. So we were just looking for ways to have protein while I was pregnant. And so I made a lot of smoothies. And so it was a game of like, how can we mask the peanut butter with like blackberries? Takes a lot. I'm just saying. But although pregnant taste buds are weird, like, right. I could.
Now, what was your recipe are you eating? What did you crave when you were pregnant?
Pasta. Like I ate pasta all
By itself or in any kind of sauce or
Oh, it was just like regular old spaghetti, but it was like, how spicy can I make it? Like, and then other weird craving was, I craved sour cream.
I just love cream in general.
I love sour cream, but like now even I look back on like pregnant me and go like, oh, I can appreciate that people maybe thought that was kind of gross because I would like eat it like with a spoon. Like I was like, oh, we're out of chips. Like, let me just like, I would just eat the sour cream pregnant me ate.
I like actually like almost just gagged thinking about the thought of swallowing a spoonful of sour cream. But the flavor of sour cream is my favorite. Like
Yeah.
it's because it's got the tang. I'm a tang person. Douse it in vinegar, douse it in hot sauce, douse it in balsamic. I have 700 types of vinegar and sour cream, Greek yogurt, anything that has that like bite to it. I like feel like I want my tongue to like melt off with tangy. Like that's but that was my thing when I was pregnant. I wanted and I'm not this person. Like, some people are like sour, like the airheads that mouth off, right? When I was pregnant, all I wanted to do was eat sour Skittles, the ones that are like greeny on the outside and they like rip open your mouth, and Cool Ranch Doritos. Those were my the two things that I just had. Like I needed to like rip my entire inner lining of my mouth out with whatever I was eating when I was pregnant. And then at one point I went on a whole journey that I documented on social media to find Wetzel's pretzels because all I wanted to eat was Wetzel's pretzels. I had like a moment there where it was like pretzels were the only thing that I wanted to eat and only in cream cheese and mustard together, which is really delicious, by the way. Does your son like carrots?
He does like carrots. Although,
peanut butter. Have you ever done it? Have you ever done the carrot and peanut butter?
No, we'll have to try that. He's really an apples and peanut butter kind of kid. Like he's all about the apples and the peanut butter, if that's a thing. To the extent actually that for a while, my sister-in-law, like legitimately, we were on a family vacation and she was like, oh no, we have to be careful opening that because like Roseanne's allergic. And I was like, what? No, I'm not.
Like, I'm not.
Also, and she was like,
you're allergic because you hate it so much?
Yeah, like she literally thought that I was allergic. And I was like, no, I just really don't like it. Like, and she was like, wait, so hold on, you're not allergic. Like, this is not something that's going.
You're like terrible. This weird? Is there like you're just this weird that you hate peanut butter this much? That's so funny.
And you know what's funny? My mom, when I turned 5, did this like awesome tea party. Like, I had a tea party, so we had like finger sandwiches, and so like so we had this tea party, and so I always remember it's like, oh, in terms of like, oh, I'm inspiring change, right? Bringing people over to the dark side. I had pretty much kids who were like, what do you mean it's not peanut butter and jelly? And I was like, just try it. Just try it. You got to just try it. And then they tried it and they were like, this is actually like really good.
Delicious. So the lesson here is you don't need peanut butter to enjoy your lunch as a 6-year-old or as a grown-up, which is, peanut butter is like a food group over here in my world. So, All right. So this has been so amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for going over time because I know that we totally did here. Last thing here, where do we find you? Like if we want to hire you, befriend you, stalk you, like do on LinkedIn, like how do we find you? Where do we find you? And like how do we get some of your services?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love for people to reach out on LinkedIn. As we talked about, it's a great platform to connect and learn from each other. You can find me by searching Rose Ann Mullet, Mullet, 1 T. I don't know why lots of people think Rose Ann Mullet, yes. And on my LinkedIn is my portfolio and some samples of my work. So if you're just curious about content development or some like how this all translates in terms of teaching and beyond. You can see some samples of my work both on my LinkedIn and on my portfolio.
So thank you for joining us on this last episode of Career Hacks and Snacks. It is such a fun thing to do. I'm so lucky to be able to get to talk to such amazing people, and we will see you for the next one. So thank you, Rose Ann, for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.